How's everybody doing, and welcome to the fish room. I'll kind of just scan over the tank so you get a brief idea, if you haven't seen the fish room before, what the tanks are going to look like. Currently I think I have 15 tanks. If you watch any of my older videos, you guys can check those out. I'll put a place at the end of this, maybe throw a card right here. I used to have a lot more aquariums, but now I'm focusing more on kind of more display tanks, even though I know some of these aren't. They're still like breeder tanks. If you guys aren't familiar with the channel, go ahead and subscribe, hit the notification bell so you know when I upload videos. Helps me out, I appreciate it. But let's go ahead, let's jump right into this video. First tank we have right here, this is my wall tank. It's a little bit hard to see from this side. Once you get closer, we are finding a little bit of a glare. But if you want to check out that video, I just did that maybe my last video or 2 videos ago. This used to be all fake plants. We went ahead, we pulled everything out, we added some eco-complete substrate. Go ahead and turn that light off in front of us, but I did a bag or 2 of the eco-complete underneath, and then I did just some natural stone on top. You can kind of see the layers down here, but we just went with some potted plants. I think I did some lutea and then some red luendi, or however you say that, I kind of forget. We still have the sponge filter in the middle of the tank just to keep it cycled. We're currently cycling this Fluval 207 canister filter. It's a little annoying in my opinion to kind of hook it up right there, but it's doing a good job. We have our Amazon sword here, probably melting back a little bit. All this stuff will kind of settle in. For right now, we're just working with, I have a bunch of baby guppies in here. Things I just kind of couldn't catch out, or I wanted to leave some fish in here. And then we have some of these cool yellow guppies that kind of have like a black tuxedo body. Gonna focus in for us. And then they have some yellow tails, just kind of like a fancy guppy. Nothing too crazy here today in this tank, but I'm looking forward to maybe doing some angelfish in here. I'm gonna try and do all the same color. Having trouble focusing on it right now, but I do have a background that goes on this. It sticks on. I think it's kind of a cool idea with these magnets. And I have a piece of background I just stick on the wall, and then whenever I want to put on this tank, I put it on there so I can view it from the other side. This is going to be a longer tour today, so I don't want to focus on that too much. Just kind of quick with this tank, but I want to do maybe 6 or 8 angelfish in this tank and maybe do all the same color. They'll kind of school up more, I think will look kind of cool. And then I want to do some of the blue neon dwarf rainbows. If you want to look those up, they're pretty cool. They don't get super big. They're the rainbows they're faster, they're schooling. But they're a little bit smaller, maybe get like 2 to 3 inches. They get a nice blue color, and I want to do like 10 or 12 in here, and I think this tank's gonna look really cool. But moving forward to this tank right here, right next to it. Here currently, this is just kind of growing some plants for me. I do have some guppies in here. It's more of like an albino strain. Just kind of growing them out, but they are starting to get to that breeding size. A little bit hard to see, but I think these males look really cool. We'll focus in like I keep saying, but he's like an orangish yellow color. They're pretty neat. And then down here we have some, it's like some water sprite. We have some stem plants here. I forget some of the names, but it's been growing a whole bunch as I put it in here. You can see this one's even kind of trailing along the bottom and shooting roots down. So I'm kind of curious how it's going to keep growing. This one over here, you can see is getting super tall. I can cut that down and start moving it around. Maybe even take some of those trimmings and put them into the wall tank there. He's trying to go with a green, red, open area, red, then green. So maybe we could do some of those stem plants in this corner here and kind of clump different colors and sections just to kind of get a flow, but then those will grow a little bit taller if we allow them to. Nothing too crazy in here, but I do think this tank's doing well. I'm not adding anything to the tank, any fertilizer or anything. And we got a little shrimp down here too, it's been doing pretty good. Continue with some more shrimp. If you just go to the next tank over on this wall, this tank's doing really well. We have a bunch of orange shrimp in here. It's kind of like a cherry shrimp, but it's like an orange strain. Some of them are a little bit darker. I've been trying to get them to be more of a dark orange or almost a red color. I think they just look a little bit higher grade. But nothing too crazy in here. Like I said, we have this random container of plants here. That was from my older videos where we were growing plants from seeds, and it's actually doing fairly well. If you look from above, it's actually getting bigger leaves, and I'll just kind of see how that works out. But I just kind of dropped it in here. The shrimp cleaned it up because they're starting to get some algae. We have a bunch of snails in here, and we did add some calcium. I think it was the Wonder Shell. Any of the things I'm talking about, I will put them down in the description, any products or foods I'm feeding. But wonder shell, if you have shrimp or snails and their shells get real soft and they're kind of getting brittle, it's a deficiency. They need more calcium. So I've been adding that, and they're getting so much more color back. They're actually breeding more. You can see they're more of like a red or orange color. Before they were like almost like a white, and you'll see some of my other tanks, they still are doing that. So I've been adding more and more of that wonder shell, and it's been helping out a bunch. Next tank over, this is pretty cool. It's kind of just a random tank. I have some calls of shrimp, and we have a pretty cool strain of guppy here I'm gonna try to breed. They're kind of like the albino. This is kind of like the last tank I was showing, how that male looks. He has that like orange color to him, but he's also like just the pigment. You can see it looks like an albino, even though their eyes are still black. I think these guppies are pretty cool. It's still just a fancy guppy, kind of just a cross. But maybe we'll put these guys together for a couple generations, get some babies, see what happens. We also have a lot of baby plecos in here. So you can see there's actually some long fin commons. There are some albinos. You can see the snails just while we're passing them, how they have that lighter colored shell. Mostly because some of these are just older and it's gonna take longer for their shells to heal. But I gotta add more of that wonder shell to the tank. I actually might do it now, so I'm not afraid to do it. Just so you can see what I'm talking about here, this is one of the bags. Obviously I tore it open and I actually smashed it up in there just to get a little bit more out of it. But that's all you're gonna do, just get that, drop in the tank, and then you'll see, especially if you have more snails or shrimp, they'll kind of actually pick away at it, and it'll eventually disappear. If you have like a black substrate, it'll stand out and you'll see it. But I had one in here not too long ago and I can't see it anymore, so obviously just gonna keep adding that till their shells are back to normal, and then just add it whenever every once in a while, just to kind of keep them balanced. But moving forward, there are a lot of baby plecos in this tank, so I think it's pretty cool. You can see them on the sponge filters there. And this is one of those where you can see the albino. He's kind of hiding around the back of that sponge filter. There's some albinos there. But this is all from the same, I guess, clutch of eggs. There's a new pair they bred. They kicked the eggs out of the cave. So I just netted them out, tumbled them. I think I had a video on that too with those hang-on breeder boxes, and these are the babies from that. So pretty cool. They're doing well. I've been feeding them a bunch of algae wafers. Moving forward to the tanks down here. These are the line breeding project tanks. So you can see the males, kind of a little sneak peek on these guys. They're getting bigger, they're doing well. Their backs aren't that super straight, so it's not the best strain. A little disappointed, but we're definitely gonna go through and pick some of these guys out the next month or so, the best out of this tank. And then we're gonna mix them with our females over here. We've only got 3 or 4 in this tank, but this is kind of that line breeding project tank. And we're gonna go through, probably pick out the nicest pair, and then just kind of continue that series. So that'll be coming out in the next few weeks here, maybe the next month. Moving just straight over to the left, 55-gallon tank here. We have the moss rocks over here. If you remember doing that, just tied it down with some fishing line. They're growing pretty well. Every once in a while I drop algae wafers and get stuck in there, and that's kind of annoying, but the fish will pick at it and eat it out of there. But they're doing pretty good. I like them. I did move them from, they were in this tank over here, but we were fighting that green water. I've actually had this light off for the last week or so, and I did a huge water change on it, but I did move the moss over here so it wouldn't die while the lights were off. This is just a male only tank of guppies. So most of them are those yellow half blacks, or just assorted guppies. Sorry, I keep looking at the tank and not the camera. But we have a bunch of those male guppies in here. We have some common bristlenose plecos, that's a large female. We have some medium-sized ones down here. That's a one bulldog pleco. If any of you guys have been following the channel for a long time, it's actually quite an old pleco I've had for a while. That's about as big as he's gonna get. And he's got that pushed-in nose. There's like another male just kind of hanging out behind there. We got some media cycling down there for a future tank for the sump. And then the water spread up here, this floating plant, is doing really well under these shop lights. You can see it's actually growing out of the water up here, which is pretty cool. I'm excited to start pulling from this, because I don't want it to get much bigger than that. I want it to be real dense on the right side, have our current over here kind of push it over, and then as it gets too big, we'll keep pulling from that. Hopefully it'll keep the tank balanced, remove some nitrates, and I think they just kind of look nice. It's a little difficult to catch fish with that there, but I always can just take the lid off and go on the left side here, so it's not too bad, but that's why I don't want to cover the entire tank. Still have some open space here. Moving up to the tank above it here, we have, these are like the yellow half black guppies. I've been letting them kind of just colony breed, so we've been getting some variety and color in here. But every once in a while I'll go through and just kind of catch out some males and females that I don't want to stay in this tank to breed, or just to separate into males and females for sale tanks. A little bit hard to see in these tanks just because the lighting's a little bit off. It's super bright from above, but once you try to get a camera shot from the side, it doesn't focus as well for us. But there's a bunch of guppies in here. Like I said, I'll keep separating them. But we have some water sprite up top. Actually, this is a wisteria. Doing the same thing. I actually trimmed from it a little bit not too long ago. It's starting to grow out of the water, super dense. It's almost one giant mat. I can just move the whole thing and then it all moves together because it started off in one piece and I haven't really broken it up much. And then underneath we have the moss. Getting a little bit stringy because it's getting so dark. But you can see all the roots growing down from the floating plants. There's definitely lots of babies in here just kind of hanging out and diving in there when they're brand new babies. And we do have some plecos in here. You can see some baby plecos back against that flower pot. It'll focus in for us. Those should be a lemon blue eye. They might be albinos. I can't really see right now. But there's a cool long fin albino. We have some more lemon blue eyes right there. Medium size long fin albino. We'll be breeding those shortly. Got a super red back there. There's a nice assortment of plecos in here. I've been growing out and now they're starting to breed, which is always pretty cool to see those baby plecos, and they're really small, so you can tell that the pairs are definitely a little bit younger. But that's exciting to spot some babies in here. This tank here, we have some breeding going on. This is the super red pleco tank. A lot of guys growing out. This one's one of my favorites actually. It's a nice long fin red male that'll be a future breeder. You can see the bristles are just starting to come in. Definitely a cool pleco there. If you look closely behind them, there's some baby plecos moving around. Let's see if I'll focus in. See a couple there. That looks to be a common, but there are some super reds in here. So we might have some crossbreeding going on, or they might just be kind of throwing different babies. But I've been growing out a lot of the super reds in this tank. There are a couple albinos and lemon blue eyes too. And then we have just a kind of a mutt guppy tank. Used to be the reds, but I mixed in some different colors. We're just gonna let this tank kind of colony breeding, just get an assortment of guppies and grow out a bunch of the plecos. You can see there's a nice long fin albino. There's a cool standard fin calico back there. We got some more calicos or red marbles on this driftwood. And there are a bunch of little baby plecos in here too. If we look close on that rock there, you see that one's probably a few weeks old, maybe a month old. And then we have some of these plecos that are 6 or 9 months old, maybe even a year old, because they definitely grow very slow. The red strain, I found they grow a little bit slower than the albinos and the commons. And they just don't get quite as big typically in my strains. There's another young male pleco. That red right there, he looks like a standard fin. The big male that's the breeder is usually over here in this cave. Can't see him right now, but there's a female above it, which is always a good sign. I know it's kind of hard to see some of these tanks, but just kind of going through. Down here we have some female guppies and a whole bunch of plecos. Like I said, it's a little bit cloudy because it's been fighting some green water, but it's definitely slowly but surely getting better. We did a massive water change. I did a few water changes on this tank. The last one I took it down with like an inch or two of water. After I kind of prepped the fish for it, we got the nitrates real low. We did that massive water change, and I think it's going to clear up in the next few weeks here. But we do have some nice big plecos in here. You can see some lemon blue eyes here. Nice big male hanging out of the cave. That looks like a smaller male. Might be a female, but looks like that's a male. And then we have a couple common long fins. That one's kind of hanging out under the sponge filter. We have just some baby albinos and commons growing out here as well. Let's see, we got some more over here. A bunch of the ram's horn snails. And like I said, there's some guppies hanging out, but just a couple random ones separating males and females. And we do have some babies. Look, it's a baby pleco right there. And just so you can see how small he is, he's next to my finger there. So that thing's only a few days old. Very important whenever you have the plecos. If you want to breed them, or you're trying to breed them, or you do have babies, you got to be consistent and you got to feed a lot of food. So algae wafers, I feed them morning and night. Probably like 6 wafers in this tank. They're a little bit smaller wafers. But if you want to maintain the adults and definitely get them to breed, and once they do breed and you don't see babies for a few days, you still got to feed the tank like there's babies in there, or you'll never get the babies, and if you do, you won't get a lot to survive. See, here's another one down there. So not a ton in here. Maybe there's some still in the cage just coming out today. There's a common one back there. That's pretty cool. I've seen them on the glass, but the tank's been so green I haven't really seen them. And honestly, I did such a big water change, I may have lost some too. I was expecting to lose more fish, but I was just really wanted to take care of that green water. I was kind of tired of looking at it, so did probably 2 or 3 70% water changes, and the last one I did like a 95%, almost all the water. I didn't touch the sponge filters though, so they're all cycled, and I kind of prepped the fish for it, but did that massive water change, threw some carbon in there, which is not doing a whole lot because it's not in a filter, just sitting on the sponge filter. But tank's getting better. I'm gonna turn this light back off actually. Never mind, we'll leave it on because this next tank over is kind of sharing this light, so we'll take a look at this tank. This is a pretty neat tank because it's only a 29 gallon, and we have a lot of kind of the breeding for profit going on in this tank. I have maybe 6 adult plecos in this tank. They're typically hiding. You can see there's a nice size female long fin there. We have another albino hanging out underneath the sponge filter. And you can see all the babies. So this is probably about 3 months of growth. They're just getting big enough that they could be sellable size. Not something that I'd want to be shipping personally, just because they're a little bit too small, but you can definitely sell these fish locally or to pet stores as long as you know what sizes they are. But we have a good 1 inch, maybe 1.5 inch pleco there. Probably like a 1 inch, I would say, definitely on the smaller side. But super cool. These are all my common long fins, and they have those like white tips on them. So these are definitely a cool strain, and they do have some different genetics in there because you can see the albinos in this tank as well. Granted, we've probably had a few different spawns in this tank, but for the most part, the majority of these guys are probably about 2 to 3 months old, all from the same parent. Some of them are a little bit smaller, so they're probably from a different spawn, but have a lot of albinos in here, those commons and then long fin commons. Here's actually, you can see the male to them, or to some of them. He's actually a nice like yellow color, he's not that bright. So that's a nice lemon blue eye, good grade. The female to the left here is more of like a white, like a leucistic. I typically enjoy the yellows more, even though this light's a little bit too bright on us. I don't know if I can dim it down. Try to put my hand in front of the light, but yeah, I don't want to get too caught up in this tank, but a lot of breeding in this tank and a lot of patience, just feeding them a lot of food, doing your water changes, keeping up on them, and we'll probably spot some more babies here shortly in this tank and catch some of these guys out. Moving up to the tank above it, this is our no water change aquarium. Doing really well. The guppies aren't breeding so much in this tank. We can kind of fight the glare, but the moss is really filling in. The Amazon swords are filling in. The shrimp are breeding like crazy. You can see a handful of them on the sponge filter there. But moving around, the wisteria right here and over there hasn't done much since I put it down. Not growing very well, to be honest. These stem plants are doing pretty decent. They're definitely growing. Like I said, the shrimp are doing well. The moss is doing well. But all the floating plants up top are kind of dying back. And as for the guppies, I had my purple guppies in here. So here's one of the big females. Some of the males. But I did add this yellow guppy in here because I haven't had any babies yet. So I was kind of thinking the males might be sterile, or maybe they're getting too old that they're not really breeding with the females. So I added him in here to see what happens, because he does have a nice delta tail, so they can still produce some nice babies. But so far, no guppy babies. I know some of these females are a little bit too old, but some of them are definitely mature and they're young, so they should be breeding. But this tank's doing well. The nitrates are actually starting to go down a tiny bit, and they're getting stable. So no water changes yet. I'll probably do an update on this tank, but dedicated to just this tank. But the tank's about 4 months old. I've been topping it off. Haven't really pulled many plants from it because, like I said, some of the top plants are dying back. But I feed it every day. Not a crazy amount of food, but I do feed some large algae wafers for the shrimp because there's so many in here. And this tank's doing pretty good so far. The nitrates were probably around 60 parts per million, maybe 80, and now they're going back down to like 60, so they're actually going down because some of the plants are definitely growing. Next tank over, I'm really excited about. We did get a fish for the saltwater tank, and it was kind of on accident. I had a customer of mine order this fish on accident. They ordered an angelfish, not knowing it was a flame angel saltwater fish. And they asked me if I had a saltwater tank, and I'm like, I actually do. I've been cycling one for a while. And this is actually one of my favorite saltwater fish. So everything kind of works out for a reason, and I think this fish is awesome. I'll try to feed this guy because he is eating flake food. He ate the second day I got him, but acclimated him in. He's been darting around the tank doing well. He always checks me out when I come up. Really happy about this. He's doing really good. I'll feed him some food actually now. But yeah, the flame angel is a really cool fish. And this is that project saltwater tank I've been doing videos on occasionally. It's just run by a sponge filter. I have some rocks in here and some sand. Didn't buy the live rock, but it got algae blooms. It's kind of doing its own thing. And we still got my little crab here. This guy's actually super cool. He's got so much personality. Every time I come up to the tank or drop food in, he kind of sprints for it. Like he knows he's being fed. It's really funny. This crab's really cool. But I'm going to throw some flake food in here for the angelfish. See if he'll eat for us. For the food, nothing too special. I bought this, I think, on Amazon, honestly. Just a Tetra Marine flake food. But we'll go ahead. I usually sink it for him, but I don't think it matters. I think he'll just eat it faster because he sees it in the water. But I've been feeding him. He's doing pretty well. I fed him not too long ago, just today, so hopefully he's still hungry. I don't know if he'll eat all that, but I usually feed a little bit extra that floats to the bottom for that crab. Let's see if he goes out after it. Yep, here he goes. He took a little bite. Please grab some more. I missed him on that. There he goes. But yeah, definitely cool fish, and I'm fine with just having him in this tank with the crab, like for the life of the tank. I definitely could add more. I could add some blennies, maybe some clownfish, but it's only a 20-gallon tank. I wanted to do very minimal water changes on it and just kind of have a low maintenance saltwater tank, kind of like on a budget as well. Saving money on salt, time on maintenance, and just having protein skimmers and all that stuff just so I can keep down the nitrates for more fish. I just won't overdo it, and I've just been enjoying the tank, honestly. And I've been waiting for this guy. Usually when he smells the food, the crab runs out, but I did just feed him this morning. So I used to only feed that crab every 2 or 3 days when it was just him in the tank, no fish. So he didn't eat every day. He kind of scavenged, and then I give him little algae wafers that sink to the bottom. But yeah, it's kind of an update on that tank. I haven't showed that tank in a while, but it's doing well. Moving over to the last few things, not too exciting over here, but this is what I'm heating the fish room with. If you've noticed, I don't have any heaters in the fish tanks. This has been helping me out for a lifetime of the fish room. I have bought different ones over time, but this is digital. It's not just like a hot or cold heater. It's a radiant heat, and I can actually set the temperature on there, and it'll give me a reading of what the room's at. Over here we have a couple just containers, mostly for just some floating plants. I actually have some scuds I'm keeping in there if I ever want to sell those, or if I want to feed them for any breeders in the future. Down here I have just an extra little 5-gallon tank I had, and I had some duckweed I want to kind of just keep around in case I ever wanted it. I tossed a trio of guppies down there, and this tank doesn't have a light. The duckweed grows just off of these shop lights behind us, and it's kind of just indirect light, almost just like having a light in a room. Definitely bright with those shop lights, but nothing too crazy. We have the duckweed, and we have some water spray in here. But yeah, just kind of growing off there to the side, nothing too crazy. I don't know if it's because this tank has been on the floor for so long. I had these guys in a container, but these guppies haven't been breeding or they've been eating their babies. But I have a trio in there, just been hanging out for a while. Last tank I'll show you guys is the 10-gallon tank. This is a really cool tank, but right now it's not looking so hot in my opinion. This is how we did the carpet tank from seeds. And it did really well for a long time, and then we got algae in there. I had some snails that took care of it and actually did great, but I left the snails in there for too long that they actually started to eat the plants. You can see these ones up in the front. I don't know if they're melting back or they're just getting chewed on. We did take them out since then. You can see like in that back left corner, it's hard to focus because the light's so bright, but those are kind of like a few of those little stems are looking healthy and untouched. Nice green color, they're not mowed down. So took all the snails out of here. Hopefully these things can bounce back and kind of start to grow again, kind of carpet through again, because there's a couple thin spots, but overall this tank's doing well. I threw a little bit of water Sprite in there just because I was doing some trimmings, and we do have some guppies in here, more of like an albino, yellow, half black strain. The one guppy in here I just put in has some really cool iridescence on them, but the lighting has just been too bright to capture some of this recently. But you can see that one, he's kind of like a frost. He's a pretty cool looking guppy there, moving to the right. Alright, but that about wraps it up for the fish room today. I just want to go through tank by tank. I haven't done this in a while, and I had some people commenting below so that they missed the longer videos, and I know everyone's home right now for the most part. I have a little more time on your hands so you can kind of enjoy a longer video. Nothing too flashy, but kind of just an uncut, raw video of the fish room, going tank to tank, showing you what's going on. I've been breeding some of the bristlenose plecos, some of the guppies, growing some more live plants. And I do kind of hope to get more of my tanks looking like this wall tank back there. Obviously it has to grow in, and I probably could do some better jobs with you guys filming and getting that background on there. But just to go through just kind of a simple video today, I want to do more tanks like that where I have more live plants, kind of setting a tank up for almost a customer, and I can do that in my own house and just enjoy the tanks more, have less tanks, enjoy them, maybe do a little bit of breeding, but not just having every tank being down here like bare bottom tanks with a sponge filter. In like acrylic yarn. Did that for a long time. I definitely enjoyed it. I learned a whole bunch from it. Sometimes you're only doing it for money, but then it takes away the enjoyment of the fish. So if the money's not enough to kind of compensate what you're doing it for and takes away the enjoyment, in my opinion, I'd rather just enjoy the tanks and maybe do more videos on those tanks, maybe some installs, and I can make some money off of those videos versus selling the fish. I can just do more of sharing the fishing with you guys. Just kind of explain myself a little bit there, but thanks for watching, guys. I know it's kind of jumping around a little bit here, but if you like the video, like it, comment below. If you're not already subscribed and you'd like to be, go ahead, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and check out some of these older videos I'm posting on the screen here. Thanks again, guys. Stay healthy. I'll talk to you soon. See you.